So today's Tuesday, and it is the yahrzeit of Noam Elimelech. No, today's the 21st of Adar.
Yep.
Oh. And we're learning on Daf Tzadik Yevir Levush Melchut. So we talked about the fact that that if a person doesn't learn in order to do, that it doesn't become practical knowledge. He doesn't learn how to do a mitzvah from what he's learning. So it's as if it was better that his placenta turn over. I mean, switch places with him. That the placenta should be born and he should stay in the womb. It's a very harsh statement saying that if you're not doing something, you're missing the point of this world. And therefore, it's very, very famous that at the Volozhin yeshiva, Reb Chaim of Volozhin, he used to have a statement that he told all his advanced students, that whatever you learn and you get a new chiddush out of it, see what you can turn into a practical thing to do. In Chabad it's called doing a v'chein, which is not necessarily to do something, but at least it's to make it practical. Meaning, what did I gain from this that is practical? Okay. V'inyan. The whole idea is because Chochmah, the sphere of Chochmah, is the beginning, is the first sphere that comes out when the Kav begins to enter, when the ray of infinite light begins to enter. So we said the Tachlis of Chochmah is Masim Tovim. The goal of all Chochmah is to reach good deeds. The goal of all wisdom is to change the person's actions. And here he gives suddenly, after he's used this word so many times, that ishtalshalus, meaning the cause and effect, the chains, the chain that is made out of many links, many rings tied together. So, out of the chokhmah come the midos of the heart. Come the measures of the attributes of the heart, chesed, gvura, tiferet, so on. And the chokhmah itself is enclosed within the attributes. So each one, the way you need to think about it is that action is the exterior sleeve. And each one goes into it. So when inside action is the speech, inside speech is the thought, inside thought is the attributes, inside the attributes is the wisdom, is the intellect. So that's ishtalshalus, and at the same time hitlabshut. So he's giving both things at the same time. So chokhmah, how is chokhmah different? So we've seen this many times. The chokhmah is yesh me'ayin. It has a special quality that it's something from nothing, meaning that you don't see where it starts from.
Because there's the leap.
Again, it's a leap from the Ein Sof into the Chokhmah. So this he calls here. It's a beginning. It's the source and root for all the links of the chain that come down into reality. Even though it's the beginning of the ishtalshalus, באותה נקראת ראשית הגילוי, הרי יש לה שנייה ושלישית, שגם הראשונה נמנית מן המניין למנות אחרי השנייה ושלישית. לכן אברהם שהייתה מידתו מידת החסד נקרא איבר מה. What's he trying to say? That even though it is begotten through a leap, it is called the reshit of the ishtalshalus, meaning that it is part of the ishtalshalus also. In other words, if it has a double nature, chokhmah. On the one hand, it's the leap from the Ein Sof to the Sof. On the other hand, it's the beginning of the ishtalshalus of the Sof. So when you say that it has a tachlis, you can't say about something that is a leap that it has a tachlis. If for instance, I don't know if this is a good example. I think this is the example this brought. No, he does know his source. if something suddenly appears here, and I don't know where it came from, I can't say what its purpose is. Okay, that's the idea. That when something suddenly appears, it's a leap. So the whole idea of there being a shtalshelus means that there's a propagation of the purpose. That's how the ancient scientists thought about these things. They said, like Plato and Aristotle, that's why the Rambam uses the same idea, that there's a series of galgalim, of these circles that are propagating the energy from Hashem down, and because each one causes the one after it to move, so if you know what the original cause was, that's why it was called the first cause or the first mover. They had two names for it. It's the first mover, the first cause.
Prime mover.
Primary mover. So then you know what the purpose of the last one is, because the cause just propagates through it. That's called sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. Really what sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila is saying is hishtalshlus, and it's saying that you can know the purpose of the last one on the ladder, the last part of this whole mechanism, because you know what the purpose of the whole mechanism was. But now, if you tell me suddenly that something appears out of nowhere, so how can you know what its purpose is? You can study it and think you know what's going on, but it's not so clear. You can think you know, but if it's not connected, if it's so the feeling that people have is, because they don't know where they came from. We talked about this. The person doesn't know. He doesn't know how his soul is connected above, because there was a leap. So in a certain sense, he doesn't know what his purpose is. It's not just in a certain sense. When you talk about the conscious mind, people don't know what they're supposed to do. So somebody comes and says, you're supposed to do Shulchan Aruch. How do you see that? How did you get that? Like, I don't see the connection between my life and that source. You have to make a leap of faith, that somehow leap backwards and say, yeah, the whole point of me coming into the world was in order to perform these actions.
But who says that your leap is right?
Okay? So it comes and says, but that's what's called Vayirid Hashem al Sinai. That Hashem suddenly appeared. And we don't think it was if the Torah would have been, it's very interesting. There's a whole movement now, thanks to this guy, Jordan Peterson, or whoever he is, who is teaching suddenly in a way that people connect to. He's teaching the meaning of Torah psychologically. A lot of what we do in Chassidus. But there's no really Hashem. Rather, he sees the Torah as somebody studying anthropology would, but with a lot of respect, saying this is the accumulation of generations of knowledge, of wisdom. And there's a lot of wisdom here, and we can learn from it. What is he doing? He's treating Torah again as a shtalshelus. That there was wisdom that was collected. It's collecting. What was the purpose of the whole thing? To collect wisdom. So I can use that wisdom when I'm here. Obviously, that will never translate, or that cannot translate into action. Meaning an obligation. Certainly you can't translate into an obligation. You're not obligated. Why are you not obligated? Because where's the first mover here? Where's Hashem here? He's not here. It was enacted by people, so they can't obligate me. I can use it if it seems to be in some way useful for me.
It is incentive to do so.
Okay. But the whole concept is that if this was connected, if Chokhmah was connected to everything, and all the way back up also, so it would be very clear that the only way to function in this world, the only purpose we have, is by performing what the wisdom says. But that's not how it is. So what do we get? So we get that you have to have a leap of faith to accept the Torah as obligatory. Otherwise, it's not obligatory, because you don't see it on the face of reality. There's no succession of movers that tells you, yes, the moment the universe was created, from the first moment, right away, it seemed that there was this special thing about the letters Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled until Taf, and it's a story. If the universe was a book, and we would peer into the center of the universe where it was created, and we'd see, oh look, there's a Torah scroll there. How did that happen? So then he would say, oh, this is part of the purpose, because obviously it was just somehow we missed it, but there it is. It's right there, but we don't see that. So there has to be a leap.
The only leap of faith we need is the first point,
Right.
which is the Torah.
What was I trying to mind? There was something very important to say about this.
Sorry.
It's okay. So now he says, really Chokhmah is both things. On the one hand, it's a leap. It's the Rishita Gilui. It's the beginning of the revelation. On the other hand, this is what I want to say. So the scientists now, for instance, there's a guy who, I don't remember they say it's a real thing. I don't even know if it's real. He says that when he looks at DNA, he sees, DNA, they put like that there's always a link between the two
chromosomes.
No, what do they call the four letters, or what kind of material, what kind of chemical structure are they? ACGT. What kind of they're something. They're called something.
Amino acids.
No, they're not amino acids.
They are. It is an amino acid.
No, amino acid is made out of three together, three letters together. What do they call? They have a different name. Peptides? No.
Could be.
Nucleotides. They're called nucleotides. I think they're called nucleotides. Anyway, so usually when they draw a helix, so they say all the nucleotides are connected because they always come in pairs, and they swing around in a helix. And he claimed that it's not true. That was an approximation, that they're always connected. He says no. Most of the time they're not connected. And so he checked and he saw that how are they connected? That it's either that they're connected 10 of them, then one's not connected, then 5 are connected, then one's not connected, then 6 are connected, one's not connected, and 5 are connected. That was one thing. Or it was the other way around. 1 was connected, 10 are not connected, one's connected, 5 are not connected, one's connected, 6 are not connected, one's connected, and then 5 not connected. One of these two. And they say it's a real thing. So what's he saying? He's saying Yud Kei Vav Kei is encoded
In the DNA.
in the DNA. If that was true, it would be amazing. Because what would it tell you? That somehow Hashem's name managed to skip over the boundary, the gap between the nothingness and the somethingness. Okay, it's called nucleotide, right? You didn't check?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't say. Okay. But you heard this idea? It's crazy if it's true.
Well, wouldn't be that
That
hard
Hashem's
to
name
prove.
would be encoded into the
Wouldn't be that
connections
hard
between
to
the
prove.
nucleotides.
Now that the
What?
theory is there, it wouldn't be that hard to prove, one way or the other.
So that's what he says he sees in his
If he sees it, then
in his
everybody
electron
should see it.
microscope.
Hello, if he sees it, then everybody should see
Yeah,
it.
so but a lot of people said it was fake. That there's no such professor. The guy doesn't work at Weizmann.
Oh, that's the one I sent you.
It's been going around for like 7 years now. So it's probably fake. But what is it trying to say? It's trying to say that somehow you would be obligated because the purpose came through all the way through. What he's saying here is no, the purpose can't come through. On the other hand, the moment that you recognize this as wisdom, the moment you understand that this is wisdom, regardless of where it came from, this wisdom says something. What do I mean it says something? It does propagate further because wisdom goes into the midos go into the machshava goes into the dibur goes into the maisa. So if you break the chain and you don't come all the way down, tachlit chokhmah, tshuva u'maasim tovim, you're supposed to, tachlit chokhmah is maasim, it's supposed to come down all the way to maisa. So your chokhmah is like just floating there. And it's never finishing its purpose, which was to come down. So that's what it means, that it's, on the one hand, it's a new revelation. Before that, you don't know where it came from. On the other hand, the moment that you have it in your hand already, I don't know where the Torah came from, but I really don't know. It's not, it's not like I'm saying I really don't know, because I believe that the Torah is some kind of leap from the Ein Sof into reality. But the moment that it's here, it's already it has some kind of propagation in reality. There's a second to it and a third to it, meaning there's the first revelation is the Chokhmah, the second one's the Bina, third one's the Chesed, and so on. It's not called the Chad velo b'chushban. It's not called the uncountable one. It's part of the 1, 2, 3. It's part of the whole series. So you have to connect it to the whole series.
By the way, with the leap concept of Yidden, Kellerman, he brings down 7 or 8 examples of family trees going back all the way up to Matan Torah.
Who is it?
Like, not family trees. Rabbi
Keller.
Kellerman. Teacher-student relationships all the way up to Matan Torah.
Okay.
Alive today.
Okay.
So where's the leap?
The leap is how Torah got to them. No, none of them wrote the Torah.
What do you mean? Hashem gave the Torah.
So that's the leap.
Where's the leap?
When you say Hashem gave the Torah, that's a leap.
But where's the leap?
What do you think? A hand came down.
If it's transmitted from teacher to student all the way through.
But the Torah itself, where did it come from? They're all studying the same text. Where did that text come from? So if you say that text is an evolutionary text, it evolved over time, it's documenting the wisdom of the ages and so on. So I don't need to know really where it came from. I understand the first guy thought of one smart thing, he wrote it down. Second guy got that, sort of like, how did the Gemara become?
Right.
The Gemara, we know how it became, even though it was Baal Peh before. So we know that it's documenting the wisdom, the oral Torah. But when you talk about the Torah Shebechtav, which is Chokhmah, so you've got this issue of where did it come from? Because I'm not saying that Moshe Rabbeinu collected from Hammurabi and from here, like the academics would say. I'm saying that it came complete, part and part, like the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle came down at once. So what is that? That's a revelation. It's not an evolutionary. Again, the whole secular stance is, don't talk to me about revelations. There's no revelations in the world. There's no such thing. There's no Reshita Gilui.
Is
and if there is a Reshita Gilui, which they agree today that there is, so it was the universe coming out of nothing. Okay? But the universe coming out of nothing didn't come with a book.
You can call it whatever you like. If it comes out of nothing, it doesn't come with instructions.
Why? The Torah came out of nothing and it's an instruction book.
I know. The universe didn't come out of nothing with an instruction book. The Torah.
That's what we say, that the universe is evolutionary.
Right.
Meaning the physical reality is evolutionary. But the pneumius reality is revelatory. It has a skip. In any case, so he says now about Avram. So even though Avraham, his name means he's midat chesed, he's called Eivar Ma. He's a limb of the Ma, of the Chokhmah. Meaning he propagated down from this Chokhmah that came out of nothingness. שהוא בבחינת איבר וכלי להתלבשות בחינת חוכמה, כוח מה. He is a vessel, again, he's an external sleeve into which Chokhmah comes in. שהחוכמה עצמה היא המלובשת בתוך המידות, like we said, that the Chokhmah is enclosed within the midos. ולכן כתיב, והחוכמה מאין תימצא ולא עין ממש. Therefore we say that Chokhmah is not the ayin itself, rather it's found or it emerges out of nothingness. Now, to be fair, in other places he writes that it's much more complex than that. And then the Rebbe Morash Rebbe Morash loved this topic more than any other topic, I think. And he writes a lot of Maimarim about this. And in the end he says both are true. Because just a second ago he said both are true. He said on the one hand the Chokhmah is a leap out of the nothingness. On the other hand it's the beginning of Ishtalshlus. So when you say it's a leap out of the nothingness, for something to be a leap out of the nothingness, it has to somehow be connected to the nothingness itself. So that implies that at some level Chokhmah is Ayin also. Not just May Ayin Timatzeh, but that it itself is Ayin. It's also connected to the Ayin itself. In any case, That's why when we say today, like if when a person exercises his faculty of chokhmah, he becomes ayin, he becomes nothingness. That's what bittul is. Bittul is to return something to the ayin, and you do that through chokhmah. Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom she'av b'bchinat v'nachnu ma. He's mamish dehainu b'bchinat ayin mamash. Now he says that he was really ayin, because that's the other side of what the Alter Rebbe is saying. On the one hand, it emerges from nothingness. On the other hand, when you have chokhmah, you also have the ayin itself. אמר כבד פה וכבד לשון אנוכי, כבד פה לגבי תורה שבעל פה וכבד לשון בתורה שבכתב, שהייתה במדרגת נשמתו למעלה מבחינת התורה דאורייתא מחוכמה נפק. So he has to say that Moshe Rabbeinu, his soul is even higher than the Torah itself, because he's the ayin itself. V'nachnu ma, he says about himself, I'm nothingness. But that's exactly what we say. That we say that Moshe Rabbeinu, he wrote the Torah. He became the kli for the Torah. So if I'm saying that he was the kli for the Torah, what do I mean? What do I mean to say? Okay. I mean to say that at some level, Moshe Rabbeinu is the bridge between the nothingness and between the somethingness.
Or it's
That he's right. It's Torah Moshe. He's creating the leap. So he says, and in that respect, he's kvad pe v'kvad lashon. It's his difficulty of speaking, his difficulty of transmitting the Torah Shebachtam and Torah Sheba'al Peh is because he himself has to come out of the ayin. It's like he himself, when he comes out of the ayin, he's able to give the Torah. Okay. שהיא בבחינת ראשית והתלבשות אור אינסוף ברוך הוא שהיא בבחינת ראשית והתלבשות אור אינסוף ברוך הוא שבה הוא בבחינת ממלא כל עלמין כסדר השתלשלות שמתלבש בבחינת עלמין בכל עולם לפי מדרגתו. So now we have a very important definition that you just gave, that the סובב כל עלמין is always related to as ein, and the ממלא כל עלמין is called yesh, and it's called השתלשלות. Meaning that that what we call the surrounding light, that as far as we're concerned is always the ayin, the inability to perceive, to comprehend. We have no way to comprehend. That's why when we say that you do something b'kabbalah soul, we're saying that you're doing things based on the sovev, not on the memale. When you do something because you understand it, it's because you have a mamala, because you have some kind of light permeating you, integrating into you, that it gives you an explanation for what you're doing. But if you don't have any explanation for what you're doing, and you do it b'kabbalah soul, which means that you do it because Hashem said to do it, and I have no reason in me except for that. That's the only reason I'm doing it. So if it's something like that, it's interesting whether this is true enough. So if it's something like that, so sovev, you're connecting with the sovev kol almin. The Rebbe's purpose all the time was to bring people to do the actions, not because they understand them, but because Hashem commanded. To connect you to the sovev, to connect you to the ayin. That's how you connect to the ayin. אבל הערת והמשכת אור אינסוף ברוך הוא במעשה המצוות הגשמיות תרומות ומעשרות מבחינת סובב כל המין. But when you actually do a mitzvah, the whole point is to do it through the סובב, just בקבלה soul. שלא בדרך הדרגה והשתלשלות אלא בדרך דילוג. It's that my obligation to do it came out of nowhere. And it's not because there was a whole evolution of why, meaning when I learn, obviously I have to learn with understanding. But when I perform, when I go and do the action should be completely void of understanding. Meaning, it's not that I'm supposed to be an idiot and cancel out everything that I learned, but I'm doing the action not because of that. But I'm doing the action because of the obligation. So this tension exists in everything that we do when it comes to Torah. And by the way, it's not a bad idea that's why the Rebbeim always loved using this example, but the army is sort of like that. That's why they always laughed at, the military intelligence, right? That's supposed to be like an oxymoron. Listen, how can it be in military intelligence? The whole military works on Kabbalah soul. It all works on orders. So you're saying there's intelligence in the military? Somebody thought something out? What are you talking about? Says, of course there's military intelligence. Somebody on the top was thinking. Supposedly this thinking is propagating down, but the reason the people, as the command propagates down, do things is not because somebody thought it, because somebody commanded it.
Oh, okay, I get you.
In the military, you have these two things very, very clearly
Defined.
working in the same way. That there must be some kind of intelligence above. Where's the intelligence? So usually they even try to disconnect it from the military itself. That's why you slowly
It's
over
a
time,
separate branch.
right? It became that the government or the minister of the army of whoever it was, he's the guy who thinks the policy, and then the military is just supposed to do it. Meaning they say even, we don't want to make the decisions. You tell us what you want, we'll make it happen. That's our job. Don't put the pressure of having to think out what needs to be done on me. That's your problem, says the chief of staff to the politician. You figure out what you want, what your policy is, and I'll make sure that it happens. I'll make sure that it happens in the best possible way. But don't put that on me. I don't want to think about what the goals are. I want to know what the goal is. I'll make it happen. And there's a funny thing that there was once a movie called 13 Days during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was 13 days long, so they had to really, I don't know if this thing ever happened, but they say it happened something like this. That when the Americans were putting the sea barricade.
Mm-hmm. My dad was
Cuba,
on the sub.
The embargo around Cuba. So there was a Russian ship that was coming, and so they told him it's called a quarantine. Navy knows how to do quarantines. So the chief of the head of the Navy, whatever general it was.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, "You guys set a quarantine. I know how to do a quarantine." He says the Navy has been running quarantines since the days of John Paul Jones,
Right.
the first general of the American Navy in 17 who knows what. There's a way to do it. We know what we do. Suddenly, they put McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense, in the pit with the military, because they said it's not enough for us to tell you put a quarantine, because we don't want you to, because the quarantine says that if any ship tries to break, you shoot over its bow once, it doesn't stop, you blow it up. That's how it works. He says, no, you can't do that. We're trying to communicate, he says. We're trying to communicate with, what's his name, Khrushchev. What? That's not a quarantine. I mean, the military says, I know how you do these things. Don't suddenly, tell me there's a meaning behind this. I don't know what the meaning is. I don't care what the meaning is. My job is to make the quarantine work. And if you're interfering with your different thoughts about it and supposed to do this, I can't do the quarantine the way you wanted me to do. This is not a quarantine anymore. It's something else. So don't call it a quarantine. But it's like they want it to be separated. They can't stand the fact that you would connect the two. The thought that's going inside and the actions. So when a person is doing a mitzvah, there's also something like that. That said, I know a ton. I'm also the policymaker because I learned in the Gemara. I know, and I'm supposed to know because Talmud Torah is supposed to be it's supposed to be what it means that it's connected. It's the thought behind all the mitzvahs, and I'm supposed to integrate it. Meaning, I'm supposed to understand why I'm doing this. But when it comes to actually doing it, don't confuse me, because I can't do it. I can't do it at the same time as an obligation. If I have in my mind, these are the reasons why I'm doing it.
Because it just detracts from the actual act. You need a certain naivety.
Right? You have to go back to like a child who was told, do it this way. Said, no, I do it this way.
So that's why the Baal
even though I myself know exactly why it's like this, to the level that I understand. Can each one? Why the Baal Shem Tov
preferred the peasants.
Right? Simply in it, because they did it because they were told to do it. And they accepted the obligation. The truth is that as much as we know a great deal, in the end, we do things because we're told. And that's the big difference between somebody who's living his life committed to Yiddishkeit, to halacha, and somebody who's not. In the end is whether you feel that there is value to doing things, even if you understand why they're done the way. And it's silly. Reb Sofer always loves to give this example. It's silly if you don't understand this, because somebody once asked him, "Well, how do you know that the tefillin have to be square?" So he says that's like a question that I need to speak to you over the phone with. So the guy says, yeah. He says, what? He says, well, what's your phone number? He says, what does it matter? Who cares what the phone number is? Just, pick up the phone and we'll talk. He says, it doesn't work that way. You have to give me a number to dial. He says, same thing tefillin. It doesn't work if it's not square. It just doesn't work. Why? Do you know why you have to put a number in? Why it's 9 digits? Why it's this? Why do you understand SSI signal system 7? Do you understand how the whole thing works? You don't care how it works. You want to dial in the end, and you want it to come to the other guy. That's all. You don't understand anything about how these things work, but you use them in a certain way. It's the same thing with halacha. We do it this way because this is how it works. Do it any other way, it doesn't work. Why? Why? You want to sit now and understand the whole why? Well, it's got nothing to do with it. You can understand the whole why. By the way, there's guys who are great at great electricians who have no idea why computers work the way they do. Why? Because I don't know what they get frustrated over the software because it's not doing what they want it to do. Because it doesn't always mean that you understand all the way to everything. Okay.